Hello, everyone. It is Sunday, the 5th of November, 2023, and I have the Powerhouse gym t-shirt on. I've had it for a few years. I have a black one as well. It's a cute crop top, but it had me thinking. The reason why I'm wearing it is it's Olympia weekend, and it's a huge bodybuilding show event where it's multiple different categories. And for those of you that don't know, I'm actually a semi-pro bodybuilder, and in masters category as well as open. And my last competition, because COVID and the pandemic, literally in Canada, especially in Ontario and Quebec, it was like literally lockdowns were insane. Okay, the mandates and the measures and stuff like that were extreme. It was ridiculous. And so November 2021, so at the end of November, so it's been almost 3 years now, 2 years now, sorry. I was prepping. No, it's 3 years now, I think. No, because I was prepping through the pandemic, so it was 2020. Well, it could have been either. Anyway, one of those years, and it was really hard. I was going at like more for the wellness category, and I had prepped for 12 weeks, and which is hard enough in itself. And I prepped it, and I even did the peak week protocols and stuff like that, and the hotels that were hosting this big bodybuilding competition in Toronto. It kept on changing the venues, and things kept on getting canceled because of the lockdowns and stuff like that, and it was getting frustrating. So that was stressful enough. But people, including myself, flew into Toronto. I drove, and a lot of money. Like the hotel that was finally settled on, you know what I mean. It was gonna be a go, and I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of everything. I put everything into it, and I was slated to be like one of the top people that year. And I was even tagged by the Toronto Pro Super Show, like venue people and CSR media and stuff like that. And I had the best package to date. And I even have like photos to prove it, like for like that are completely not edited, like natural lights and stuff like that in my beige bikini that I still have. And then when I was at the venue itself, that's when they canceled it. At the hotel, I had just arrived, and then they canceled it when everyone got there. And so like that's bullshit. And didn't get money back, and just more of a waste. And then I drove back home, and then the following day, a man, I was on my way to the gym to meet up with someone, and a man tried to drive me off the road. And it looked very deliberate, and the way it was done, like going in the passing lane without even like looking at all. And I was literally within like in a meridian for a while. I would say for at least a minute, and which is a long time when you're like driving through posts and stuff like that, and like don't want to go in a friggin' ditch and then roll over and die. And then finally, like he went back, like into his lane when he realized like there was a transport truck, this guy, and then me. And I posted a story about that, and it was just really suspicious because like in the 27th of September 2021, there were also two men in construction vests that came to my home. It was very suspicious late at night, try to gain access. And like I was very like, what do you want? I'm used to this game, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, just because of my experiences with my career and stuff like that as well. And they ended up running off, and I locked the door, but then they ended up circling my block for over 2 hours. And I didn't trust law enforcement at that time either to even respond or do anything about it. And so I let them know, like the non-emergency line. And then the next day I put in a report, but I had all the video recordings. I shared it on Twitter and stuff like that, even as they were circling my block. And I was messaging a friend and giving him video like as well. And so this is all verified and on the record now. And it's just to show you that Huntmar police station, just like how much they have like been harassing or targeting certain people, including myself. And to the point where like I didn't even feel safe or trusting enough to even call them even at that point. And then things got progressively worse, right? Because I actually was dealing with people that were stalking and harassing me, and even footprints on my back step, and using vehicles against me, and going to my gym and my dog parks, and literally with cameras and recordings. Like I never felt safe, and damaged my home. All of this stuff, my like driving to my home and seeing like that, like the front door, which was locked, it was open. And then I could go on a list, but I'm still looking for a lawyer to go against like ultimately the same people that Helen Bruce are going against at Huntmar Police Station, which is just a corrupted precinct now, unfortunately. And they really like to harass and abuse women and support and enable men who are cowardly pieces of shit to do whatever they want to women, including victimize them and harass them and insult them and abuse them. And they will do nothing about these pricks. And on the record, they said, well, you should just move. I would move. That's a detective from Ottawa Police Services on the record. And they would, and this man talking to me said that he would be afraid for his life too if he was me. Like, well done, schmucks. And that was the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, 2022, on the record as well. Actually, that's when I had again to call 911 because of someone, same person, and then there was a criminal investigation put in, and they dropped everything. These fucking schmucks, even though I had emails, so much data, and third-party police reports. They didn't like that either. And so this is what I mean, like people like me, actual innocent human beings, and during this time too, and it's not just to tuck myself up, but like giving like $40,000 to charities during this time too, for like wilderness retreats for first responder types and veterans and people dealing with a lot of shit because of what our government leaders were pushing, the psyops, the propaganda, and the media bullshit that people were struggling through and killing themselves, or addictions, you know, or increasing prescription medications, or getting overweight. Like it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting who was vilified and tortured during this whole thing, and then who got, again, like accolades and hero, you know, like just like fucking virtue signaling schmucks, people that were never fit or healthy in their lives before, got to be virtue signalers because they took a jab instead of stopping to eat burgers, you know what I mean, like 18,000 times a week. And anyway, I'm going on all these tangents, but yeah, I just like I'm hoping to go back to the Arnolds again because I had went. It was 2 or 3 years in a row, and then that is all stuff that was also like stopped and impacted for people unless you got vaccinated, and then you were fine. And there's been a lot of people since then too, people that I know personally in the bodybuilding community as well, that have died suddenly when they were very healthy, and in a short period of time after getting inoculated. So it is what it is. I would love to get a lawyer in Ottawa to actually. I'm still looking because people are too terrified to go against government, unfortunately, or they think it's too much. And so I'm really, and in Ottawa, most of the lawyers here anyways are bought and paid for by, unfortunately, the Liberal government, and they all hang out together and all of that shit. And still, unfortunately, are still fully supportive of the COVID vaccine mandates and wanting people to get boosted, even infants. And these are the lawyers and the legal teams within Ottawa, right? So these are also people that work with like the judicial system and the federal government as well, and even the military and other government organizations. There's legal teams there as well, and they've all been on the side of pseudoscience, and they've been on the side of the criminals that are dictating, these measures on us, and then finding ways to legally allow it where like no one is impacted by it that implemented these measures, right? So like this is what the lawyers in Ottawa and Toronto are doing. Like I'm not finding anyone. I have tried to reach out to so many, it's overwhelming. And so Dawn189 at protonmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all social media platforms. I would really like it if a brave lawyer, just like Helen has, which it was hard for her to find, and a good lawyer. And I had a lawyer, Paul Miller, with the Methylquin mass tort case, but he has like thinks that I'm on the wrong side here. And the last conversation we had over the phone was like 2 years ago now, and he was like trying to get me to get vaccinated, and I was trying to share, and I had already shared with him like the medical, scientific, and government data. I was sharing to literally everyone else in government, saying like this actually helps the case because this is just exactly what this is what we were trying to avoid. And Jeremy McKenzie from Raging Dissident, he's actually also part of the Methylquin mass tort, and so this was like on the case. This was on the records for years before this pandemic was implemented, and we knew that this was something that was going to be like it forced on people unless we did something about it legally. And I just wish that the people or the lawyers here they're just too weak to take on these cases, so they don't want to take on these cases. They're too small to take on these cases, because again, like the big bucks companies, you know what I mean, like in Ottawa, unfortunately, are like their pockets are being lined, unfortunately, by the Liberal government, or like people in cabinet right now that are like they're getting a lot of money off these people. So why would they help someone like me? It's unfortunate, but it's just a reality. So there's more information about fenbendazole, or what do you want to call it? Fenbendazole. I always had an awkward time pronouncing it. But I've been sharing this information now for years as well, and I have proof. You just have to look at my previous videos. On YouTube, unfortunately, I'm on account number 3 or 4, and so you only have up to a certain period, and then I will start to upload older videos again. I just wanted to. Oh no, it's not coming up. So I shared information about them about that. So I just got to copy and paste this into a unsecure browser, and I believe this video. Is also one that I sent to government over well. Okay, so it's up. Yeah, so any lawyers in Ontario that would like to look at like some of my grievances, it's all on the record and more what I'm talking about. And it would be really nice to get someone to be on my side for once. I have not been supported throughout this whole thing. Even with information that's been taken from me, I don't even get a shout out. I don't get invited on podcasts. And I know and again, these are people that were even following my accounts even before I knew who the hell they were, because I'm the OG. I am the OG. But I'm in Canada and a woman. And unfortunately, like the podcasters and the YouTubers that are the most popular, they're all men.
Dogs cured your cancer, you better be ready for some skeptics. But Joe Tippin says it did save his life and others. And now even cancer researchers are open to the possibility it might be true.
My neck, my liver, my pancreas, my bladder, in my bones, it was everywhere.
2 years ago, Joe Tippin says he was told to go home, call hospice, and say his goodbyes. The doctors were unanimous. He was going to die of small cell lung cancer.
Once that kind of cancer goes that far afield, the odds of survival are less than 1%, and the median life expectancy is 3 months.
Tippin says he went from 220 pounds to 110, but that was January of 2017. Today, Tippins is very much alive, and what he credits for his survival has doctors scratching their heads and the rest of us raising eyebrows.
About half the people think I'm just crazy, and half the people want to know more and dig deeper.
Tippin says he got a tip, not from a pharmacist, but a veterinarian. And in his desperation, he turned from people medicine to dog medicine, specifically fenbendazole, or what you give a dog when it has worms.
Truth is stranger than fiction, you know.
Just 3 months later, Tippin says his cancer was gone.
I'm usually skeptical, and I was, and maybe still am, about this one. But there's an interesting background to this.
Cancer researchers like Stephen Prescott are skeptical, but they also are not dismissing this anti-parasitic's potential. He says Tippins is not the first person to potentially.
So keep in mind that's an anti-parasitic treatment, which is also important, and a possible alleged link. Again, I'm just consider this a possible link to curing cancers. And then if you look at ivermectin, what was that? It was a dewormer. That's also something that is also linked to like incredible health benefits when we take anti deworming and deparasite treatments. And there's also homemade natural remedies too. I've been using oregano oil. I just brought this out. I've been using this stuff for many years. You can ingest it, which is a little unsettling, but there's a reason behind that. Or like smelling it too. It's better to consume it in organic form. ideally, and then even coconut, oil can be consumed. This is like very good for like a cleanse, and obviously fasting, and there's multiple other ones as well. But you can also again get a prescription, possibly, if they'll allow you, because like again, this is treatment for animals, and I don't know why they don't have this for humans, but bendazole and ivermectin. Just again, this is more links between bacterias and funguses and parasites and worms being what makes us possibly chronically ill, even terminally ill, or not.
Benefit, and maybe not the last.
Scientists at many credible places have done work on this for years.
But was it the dog dewormer, or was it something else? Tippins took the dog medicine with daily vitamin E supplements and CBD oil. He was also taking an experimental cancer-fighting drug. But Tippins says out of the 1,100 patients on that clinical trial, he was the only one cleared of cancer. Tippins says he was saved by the dog dewormer, and he plans to take it for the rest of his life.
Well, my insurance company spent $1.2 million on me with traditional means before I switched to a $5 a week medicine that actually saved me.
Prescott says he's now working with Tippins to organize a case study.
We're going to do it and see if we can confirm that in a very rigorous or a clinical study sort of way that these patients had that kind of response.
As for Tippins,
I've got now over 40 success stories other than me.
He's sharing his story on an online blog that has already been read more than 100,000 times. Most of the feedback, positive or curious. Some, though, accuse Tippins of giving cancer patients false hope.
So I couldn't see the screen, so I had to just like cut it off. So that's one testimony. They're just going to get to bullshit to try to get you not to be interested in this moving forward. But this is from over 4 years ago. And I want to share with you, if I can even present it. Okay. So this is a whole list of references that I've shared to so many different organizations, and sometimes I pick and choose, and that's why I have titles for most of my links. And this is again a few years old, even with like obviously updates at the end, like my most updated works at the end. But, so it's here. So I was sharing this, and I've done videos on this as well, where I shared this information, and so it's just more proof that I'm not just like on the bandwagon here again. This is stuff that I've shared before, and here's another testimonial that I wanted to show you, because since Joe Rogan has and certain people have now started making it more mainstream to talk about this in the last 48 hours.
I had tumors in my neck, my liver, my bladder, my pancreas, and in my bones from head to toe. Statistically, when you have small cell lung cancer that metastasizes that far afield, you're a goner. Life expectancy goes below 1%. I got a call the next day from a large animal veterinarian. He basically told me this crazy story about a scientist at Merck Animal Health on the veterinary medicine side that had been implanting cancer in her mice and was doing cancer research, her entire mouse population.
So the head of Pfizer, Adam Bourla, who should be in jail, he was a veterinarian. Like, so it's not even a human doctor, and there are differences. But he should know this. And so like, why is he pushing the like Pfizer instead of so he would also know about ivermectin also being very blatantly, he would know that in his profession, like if he's got all these freaking accolades and stuff like that, he would know that ivermectin is used for animals and for humans. And then also with fembendazole, he would absolutely know about the efficacy of that as well, which is why I'm interested in like the ingredients that all of that stuff that are used, and
population came down with intestinal parasites. And so she gave what is given to all animals is a drug called fenbendazole. Lo and behold, she saved her mouse population from dying of intestinal parasites. But when she came back several weeks later, she cured the mice of cancer. So that's a short-winded answer to the very next day, I started taking fenbendazole 3.5 months later, and I was all clear.
So just more interesting things. Again, it's just interesting. I'm just getting back on YouTube, so. There was other things that I wanted to talk about before getting into other things. I had them up. Okay. So I shared this on my social media. This will be you'll be getting it from me before anyone else. I have not heard anyone talk about this before. And so Pearl Harbor, actually. Okay. I knew the date because again, I already talked about it, but I just want to share this with you. Was the 7th of December, 1941. So December is the 12th month. So we have 1207. Why does that matter for people like me? It's because I'm also a syncretist, and there are certain organizations that use numerology and symbols when they're trying to communicate with others within their group that transcends language and universal coding, whatever you want to call it. And then so for 9/11, which I also approved, was staged and planned and also coordinated from people within, unfortunately, the US government and Israeli government and possibly Palestinian government too, right? Like don't leave people out when you know that there's like corrupted officials and leaders throughout the world that are ushering in these events because they're either blackmailed or bribed or cowards. And there's certainly not people that are believers in faith and a creating universe, the creator and all that stuff, right? And so unfortunately it is what it is. But people think that the twin towers, the towers that went down, were the only towers that went down. And by the way, these were controlled demolitions as well. But it was towers 1, 2, and 7 that went down that day. And 7 absolutely was controlled demolition. It's very clear that they all were. I share irrefutable proof, including structural engineer reports and experts in so many different fields, CGI, in explosions, in controlled demolitions, in structural designs, and you name it. Okay, I've shared all this information. Then people on the ground that were crisis actors and then the real people that were on the ground, the actual victims and first responder types that were responding to real events, and then also getting impeded by morons, these crisis actors and stuff like that, including media propagandists like ABC, like all of them, by the way. Fox was included in this as well, like lying about how they went down these towers. And then so anyways, 1, 2, and 7 went down, and then it was called ground zero. So you also have the 1, 2, the 0, the 7 also in that numerology. So these are the links that show that these are false flag events, and this is why people should be tracking like major like lunar and solar events throughout years, but also look at like major religious holidays and things like that as well. And I haven't seen the whole thing, but this is very interesting as well. So make sure that sound is up. So this guy knows what's up. And just more stuff that I reiterate.
Pay attention now, kiddos. It's not.
But it's good to get another source that says the same thing.
Not science. It's politics. It always is. I've been listening to the bullshit for 60 years. In the 60s, it was oil is going to be gone in 10 years. Fossil fuels is a made-up lie to imply scarcity. The earth produces oil naturally and we will never run out.
That's a fact. I've shared proof. You can look at like multiple videos that I've shared even on Rumble where I even say like petroleum ? Fossil fuel. Like
in the 70s, it was going to be another ice age. No, really, that's what they said. In the 80s, his acid rain will destroy all the crops and we're all going to starve to death. In the 90s, it was the ozone layer will be destroyed and all the air will leak out or something. In the 2000s, it was the glaciers will all melt and polar bears will be extinct. Since then, polar bear populations have quadrupled. In the 2010s, it was the East and West Coast will be underwater from rising sea levels. I've lived on an island for almost 40 years. There's no sea level rise. In the 2020s, it's if we don't spend $1 trillion on the Green New Deal, the temperature will rise 1 degree in the next 100 years or some nonsense. None of their fear-mongering predictions have ever come true, but they do result in more power and control over you every time.
Yep. And so, unfortunately, that's also in Ottawa. It's been made very clear that that the legal teams and lawyers within Ottawa don't know what they're talking about. And actually, maybe I'll just open it up, go on LinkedIn, and just show you what I unfortunately see. It's professional site, and unfortunately, I don't even know how to be able to see it. But anyways, there's lawyers were like legal people, lawyers with like a lot of like titles after their name. They're sharing content about what's going on in Canada. They're giving Justin Trudeau a hard time, which is nice, and they're calling for him to resign and sharing videos. They're calling on him to resign. But what they're sharing is also talking about climate change being real, and like and all that stuff, and carbon taxes being necessary to save the planet. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're supposed to be a friggin' professional. And these are literal legal offices, like legal teams, like advisors and all that other stuff, like all over Ottawa. Like this is, yeah. And it's because they're getting a lot of money from this, which is why everyone here needs to be fired. We need to have better ethical lawyers. Is that a thing? I don't know. I've met good lawyers, which is why I don't understand why they're such a bad rap, when there are good ones out there that are legitimately trying to help people, but they are getting overrun by, unfortunately, the majority, which are the religion is money. And that's the weird thing too, like in academic, with like people that perceive them to be like academically gifted, or in academic institutions or organizations where they just think that they're like they are smarter than everyone. I don't even know how you even like get around that and try to convince them otherwise, right? And it's too like it's also like it's often in academia in various groups, the more successful groups with the most money are the ones that are atheists and are non-believers in God and are non-virtuous in their own lives, unfortunately. And I don't know. I wanted to share this. It's a huge ship, and it just like brought in thousands of tons of plastic. So 11,353 kilograms of plastic out of the ocean for good. And this is done repeatedly. And so absolutely disgusting. And so I shared that post and I said, we no longer live life, we consume it. This is the climate change they are talking about. The pollution is created largely by China and other countries who are wasteful and dump in massive landfills and oceans. There's no space trash. We live inside a dome and this needs to be managed. Okay, so like everyone's like, oh, it's just gonna be sending it to space. There's so much space trash that even like all of these like satellites and ships get like hit with space trash. No, they don't. No, they don't. There are corporations that are so wasteful in how they create products, and how they package products, and how they deliver and ship products. And you take a look at the top 10 companies in the world, okay? And so what we need to do is we have to have better checks and balances and hold people accountable, right? Don't work with or buy and sell to companies that do that are wasteful, that are poisoning, our societies and stuff like that. There are so many approved foods in Canada and the US that in other countries they're either not allowed to be sold there, or they're slapped with huge warning labels across like the whole products because of all the like the stuff in there that causes all these different harmful like health hazards. And I really wish that like we would wake up to this. And even with the oil, I've shared countless videos on that for proof as well. It's naturally abundant, second most abundant food in the world. It's not a fossil fuel. And if Alberta wants to be greedy, and you know, they were born with like with having like people that are there now, they're born with having like the facilities there and the mechanisms already in place in order to get access to the oil to have imports and exports. However, you're part of Canada, okay, and this is an entire ass country. Okay, and it's rules for thee and not for me, like not wanting to give them like the resource, like money from the resources you're getting on behalf of Canada, and you don't want to give that to areas that don't have the same access, and that's also incredibly frustrating. This has nothing to do with equalization payments or communism or have and have not. Like, it has nothing to do with it other than people being greedy with what they have. And this is why if they want to be like that, then that's why like other provinces we need to look at and territories need to look at being able to drill and harness like and get access to oil that's underground in other locations as well, and hoping that we have access to oil, you know, that's not incredibly, you know, deep down where there's issues getting like drilling forward and stuff like that, which is I'm sure what's happened in the past, which is why there's likely no, you know, whatever you want to call that, mines to begin with in certain areas. And we also need to look at like not over exhausting resources and stuff like that. There's not shredding trees, utilizing better community models with our within our designs that are more long lasting and safer. Anyway. And since I talk about the fact that we need to manage our trash and our pollution and the way we live our lives, people still believe that, you know, there's options to go to another planet, you know, and live there and or like take this trash and like dump it in space, you know, like where like we'll never see it again and no impacts. No, ladies and gentlemen, that's why you need to make your own bed. That's why you need to hold yourself accountable, and people be guilted and shamed if they're showing anti-social, you know, behaviors, you know, within their societies and stuff like that. And then we need to be better at managing like waste and what we consume. Like we absolutely need to start doing this because like we're being lied to. I don't know if this is a good one. It's saying that I can't capture that screen. Fine. Let's see, I'll try another one. Okay. So John Thor, even though I don't agree with everything that's shown, these are the Tate brothers. And again, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff they do or say either. Trust me. I think a lot of it's disgusting. And I think this guy here, by the way, he's even on the record talking about how he would exploit like a friggin' predator women who were virgins at a very, very young age and then groom them and then to have sex with them. Like that's it. And he was like, he was giving men like hints and tips and tricks on how to bag a virgin. And these are disgusting to me because like that's clearly showing that he's just trying to get at like the sanctity or the pureness and destroy it. And he didn't marry any one of these women, and I'm sure that a lot of them thought this was going to be a long-term marriage relationship, which is why they did it to begin with. And then like likely after that gaslit and these people are disgusting, right? And these are yeah. You wonder why I'm celibate. Because even in relationships, I have been lied to, love bombed, and everything like that, and didn't put out on the first date and stuff like that, and went through that, and so much effort, you know what I mean, to make me feel so amazing, and that this was like a long-term commitment, marriage, all of this stuff, and then as soon as we had sex, ghosted. Yeah, and so like it has nothing to do with being naive or anything like that. It's trying to put trust and faith in people, and looking at their actions and their words over a longer period of time, and then just going off of that, you know what I mean? And it's still not working. And these are all unfortunately risks that people have to take if they want to invest in a family and have children. And these snakes, you know what I mean, that appear like they're marriage material and would be, would pass off good, genetic offspring and be supportive and provide. It's all like, again, smoke and mirrors to show it. Like, this is how they get us. This is the trap. All right. And then once we're in, we're dead. Or obviously that's that's exaggerating, or it's that's it. That's the end of it with these people.
How come it's so low when we take pictures in space? Oh, space is fake. You don't know?
And it's not attractive, by the way. It's not attractive. Guys with all these numbers and stuff like that, and then talking about, oh, I want a pure woman. Like, I'm going to settle down in my 30s and 40s. Like, I don't want a woman that has numbers. Even if you get a girl, again, that has been like monogamous, if she's had like a few long-term relationships, she's going to have a couple of guys that she's been with. And by the way, it's easier for women, unfortunately, to have sex than it is for men. It's just a reality of how it is. And so you're blaming women and or judging women when you don't know what it's like to be a woman or in that situation. And how many men would you have slept with in your life, given the opportunity, if you were a woman? And how many women would you have slept with if you had the same opportunities and the same chances to sleep with women as women had to sleep with men? All right. So if you were during your 20s and 30s, when women were trying to like find a partner, if you were playing video games, you know what I mean, in your parents' basement and had a porn addiction, which is very obvious to women as well. We can see that as well, like men that overly masturbate. I know that sounds gross and stuff like that. And it's even the way they look at women. You could see it in their eyes, how they like that they watch porn, and the mistreatment of women is usually, generally speaking, the porn that they watch when you are very obviously sexualized. And I'm going on these tangents, but these guys know that the reason why I'm sharing these guys is like I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they do, but they are flat earthers, and they do try to subtly talk about it. And it would be nice if they would actually just like go on the record and just actually have these conversations and share proof, like I do.
You don't know space is fake.
The one thing we fear is 300 million people coming together on one topic and saying, this makes no sense. We need answers.
An illusion will be created so vast, so large that it escapes their perception. Those who see it will be thought of as insane.
The very first spacewalk appears to be a stop animation fraud, and the Apollo moon landings were clearly produced on a soundstage with artificial lighting and a Scotch-light front projection background. So it should be no surprise if we find more lies and deception when it comes to NASA and the worldwide space program. In several spacewalk videos, we can see what appears to be underwater air bubbles, as if the entire scene is actually taking place underwater, which is interesting because that is exactly where the astronauts train.
Your leg behind you, Stephanie?
Yes, please.
The Neutral Buoyancy Lab is the largest swimming pool in North America. It contains a full-size replica of the space station. And this is where all astronauts start to train for spacewalks.
I heard that there's also a Japanese module simulated. Yes. In the far corner, we have the Japanese section. It's got the Japanese exposed palette. The Columbus is the European portion. The lab is kind of the U.S. portion. So it is an international space station, and the Russians have their own section out towards the back.
So if they already have the world's largest pool with a life-size model of the International Space Station, then all they need to do is key out the background and replace it with the black of space. For some mysterious reason, astronauts are at risk of drowning in their suits during spacewalks. And in this supposed spacewalk, we can see the reflection of a cameraman who appears to be in the training pool. Being underwater provides a realistic appearance of being in what we are told is the vacuum of space. And NASA has other tricks for when the astronauts are allegedly inside the International Space Station. Their special zero-gravity stunts can be produced in a jet, simulating zero-G by nose-diving the plane. But this can only be sustained for about 30 seconds before the plane has to level off. So when they need to have conversations with the media, they have other tricks. In 2016, when George H.W. Bush visited the ISS Flight Control Room, the camera briefly revealed one of these tricks. NASA astronaut Tim Peake can be seen performing for the camera in front of a chroma key background with tracking markers. The tracking markers are indicative of a virtual camera being used for layered CGI elements. This, along with virtual reality contact lenses, allow the astronauts the ability to handle virtual objects, making it appear that they are handling objects in zero gravity. This trick is used often. Here we see a glitch on the CGI layer of the overlaid image of a microphone being passed back and forth. Here we see a glitch where the astronaut grabs for an object floating in 3D space that we don't see. Simulating zero gravity is their main trick.
And in case there are any conspiracy theorists out there, how would you prove to us that you're in zero gravity?
And they all have the same move to demonstrate this, a somersault. And when you examine them all, you will see that it's something that could be done with hidden wires. In some videos, we can see the wires. And in others, we can see them adjusting the hidden wires. In one video, we can see the wire harness that they failed to crop out. In another video, we can see the astronaut fade out of the foreground. And in one video, we see the entire separation of the background image from the foreground, which clearly shows NASA's use of video trickery. The three astronauts, along with a few objects in front of them, are being layered on top of a false background. Female astronauts all appear to be wearing large amounts of hairspray, apparently to fake the appearance of zero gravity, which should appear to look more fluid-like. Satellites are also very suspicious.
We should get an access to information request for NASA to for how much hairspray they purchase a year and helium.
The amount of satellites we are told are up in space is impossible. You'd think that there would be photographs of them, but there aren't. What you will find are hundreds of artistic impressions, obscure videos of satellites being launched via high-altitude balloons, and random videos of crashed satellites attached to high-altitude balloons. And why would we even need satellites when we have fiber optic cables that reach across oceans? The veneration of the vector symbol in the logos.
Our internet, I've shared this so many times as well, is between 95 and 99% fiber optic cables underwater. Research it. And for many years. We've had advanced technologies before and advanced systems in place, and we go through these resets or these cycles, whether they be natural or man-made, that causes a lot of destruction, and then we have to re-inhabit and figure it out again, reestablish, redevelop.
Of every single space agency on Earth reveals the unified nature of the worldwide space program. Hidden as the number 7, it's in every single mission patch. It's also in Star Trek, Stargate, and Space Force. And it's also in the symbol for Freemasonry, which is certainly worth mentioning, seeing as how, along with known Satanists and criminals, NASA was founded by Freemasons. And the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry claims their very own flag that went to the moon on the Apollo 11 mission. So is there any such thing as outer space? As it turns out, it was the Catholic Church that foisted the heliocentric model upon the public with an army of Jesuit astronomers. And for centuries, the scientific community challenged it for its many flaws.
This is what bothers me too. This has nothing to do with skin color. This has nothing to do with religion. None of that stuff. It has everything to do with an individual. Okay, doing shitty things in the face of adversities or other.
But this all changed when NASA put a man on the moon. Ever since then, the heliocentric model has been accepted by the masses as common knowledge. The old world model was not flat like pop culture would have you believe. It was a heavenly sphere, but hollow like a snow globe or a fishbowl, where we live inside of it on a flat surface. It's interesting to note that in the 1960s, when the US government was detonating nuclear bombs in the upper atmosphere, they called it Operation Fishbowl. According to British occultist Dion Fortune, we are stuck in a fallen state within the lowest sphere of the Tree of Life, a Sephiroth called Malkuth, and the only way out is to go within the inner space of individual spirit through prayer and meditation and with divine guidance. The hero's journey, taught by Joseph Campbell. Wherever we are, one thing is for certain. The stories we are told by NASA are pure fiction and lies.
We have been taught, contrary to all common sense and experience, that the seemingly motionless, flat Earth beneath our feet is actually a massive, moving ball spinning through space at over 1,000 miles per hour, wobbling and tilting 23.5 degrees on its vertical axis while orbiting the sun at a blinding 67,000 miles per hour in concert with the entire solar system, spiraling 500,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way and careening across.
Show me a tilt on a basketball or a tennis ball.
The expanding universe away from the Big Bang at an incredible 670 million miles per hour. But that you feel and experience none of it.
Quoting Alan Dames, if the government or NASA had said to you that the Earth is stationary, imagine that. And then imagine we are trying to convince people that no, it's not stationary. It's moving forward at 32 times rifle bullet speed and spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. We would be laughed at. We would have so many people telling us, you're crazy, the Earth's not moving. We would be ridiculed for having no scientific backing for this convoluted moving Earth theory. And not only that, but then people would say, oh, then how do you explain a fixed calm atmosphere and the sun's observable movement? How do you explain that? Imagine saying to people, no, the atmosphere is moving also, but is somehow magically velcroed to the moving Earth. The reason is not simply because the Earth is stationary. So what we are actually doing is what makes sense. We are saying that the moving Earth theory is nonsense. The stationary Earth theory makes sense, and we are being ridiculed. You've got to picture it being the other way around to realize just how ridiculous the situation is. This theory from the government and NASA that the Earth is rotating and orbiting and leaning over and wobbling is absolute nonsense, and yet people are clinging to it tightly like a teddy bear. They just can't bring themselves to face the possibility that the Earth is stationary, though all evidence shows it. We feel no movement, the atmosphere hasn't been blown away, we see the sun move from east to west. Everything can be explained by a motionless Earth without bringing in all these assumptions to cover up previous assumptions gone bad.
None of it. None of it. None of it. None of it. None of it.
I want to see if I can share the other one again. It's taking long to load, sorry.
772 feet below the Earth. You have seen the globe and other space images thousands of times in your life. In addition to long space and the globe, you have been provoked to scoff at even the mere mention of the flat Earth through unrelenting, repeated conditioning since childhood in schooling, media, and entertainment. Although the narrative is changing from Columbus to ancient Greece,
I get the same question. I'm like, was it just it's a pizza and with the planets? So like, I'm like, okay, like, I don't know where you're getting your information from, but people that are their own forced biases, and that's where they're getting it from, or they're going on controlled opposition pages like Flat Earth Society, which people continuously say don't look at that because it's literally ridiculous, and it's literally people to think that that's what we actually believe. And again, it's a propaganda page.
Taught in elementary school that everyone knew Columbus was going to fall off the edge, but the smart Columbus better than the stupid flat earthers, and Columbus proved it was a globe. Even MTV's Rebellious channel always started with U.S. government's Apollo mission to the moon. How rebellious is that? The programming has been unrelenting and everywhere. Public schooling and the grading system were instrumental in creating your inflated
You know what else is funny? Like shipping with huge ancient ships, wood, by the way, from ancient trees that were much larger than they are now. We were like significantly more of a seafaring Earth, because like, by the way, like it's like 77% water or whatever. Then we were like when people knew that this was a flat Earth within a contained environment, but also again this is an electromagnetic simulation that's being projected on a flat plane of inertia via electricity and magnetism, and we are literally all like essentially being projected like by light in motion. And so people knew this for thousands of years, and it's only since this is cotton on more, especially in the last 100 years. The more people are getting dumbed down with their water supply being contaminated and food supplies being contaminated and the air being contaminated. I know this sounds extreme, but it's actually true. There's less people going and exploring the oceans, like even shipping, canoeing, like even that, and people were always on the waters. You look at old photos even from 100, 200 years ago, and paintings, and you see the water, it's full of ships, right? And so no one was afraid of falling over an edge. If anything, now people are more afraid to go out because there's been a lot of fear mongering going on with water, even with Jaws and stuff like that, deliberately meant to make people not want to explore.
Ego and that conditioned response. But here's a question for you. How do you know when you're having a conditioned Pavlovian response? A Pavlovian response isn't based on reason or intellect. Instead, it triggers a knee-jerk emotional response.
Yeah, I've lost so many friends, family. I've lost a lot of followers on all my social media platforms. I've been trolled so much. I've been threatened. I've been harassed. All you name it, because what I share, if people don't agree with it, it elicits such a strong emotional reaction in people that they feel compelled to try to hurt me or let me know, and where it is, it's just instead of just sharing the information and removing the bias and the blockages that you have and seeing that this is how I got to my conclusions that I've gotten to, is because of thinking beyond the narrative and looked at this stuff for myself with an unbiased lens, being able to understand that there's the possibility of holding a dichotomy of thoughts, and then still be able to ascertain which one is the more likely reasonable.
It makes you upset or happy in some inexplicable manner. Hopefully, by recognizing that you are in a Pavlovian response, you can set aside the conditioning and instead use your intellect and reason to investigate the flat Earth.
All I'll say is, take the time to watch the sky. If you can, use your camera to film or do a time lapse over several hours.
It is part of the natural physics of water and other fluids to always find their level and remain flat. If disturbed in any way, motion ensues until the flat level is resumed. If dammed up, then released, the nature of all liquids is to quickly flood outwards, taking the easiest course towards finding its new level. The upper surface of a fluid at rest is a horizontal plane, because if a part of the surface were higher than the rest, those parts of the fluid which were under it would exert a greater pressure upon the surrounding parts than they received from them, so that motion would take place amongst the particles and continue until there were none at a higher level than the rest, that is, until the upper surface of the whole mass of fluid became a horizontal plane. If the Earth is an extended flat plane, then this fundamental physical property of fluids finding and remaining level is consistent with experience and common sense.
They now have a Nikon P1000, but this P900 changed everything. Nikon made it easy and affordable to zoom in at 83 times magnification, record it, and then upload the video to YouTube and other video sharing sites. I thought flat earthers were maybe faking their tests, so I bought this camera so I could see it for myself. Flat earthers aren't faking anything. Unlike the globe model propagandists, you don't have to trust us. Flat earth isn't word of mouth anymore. I can show you the actual video proof again and again and again. Before I start discussing the proofs of the flat earth, it's necessary to first address the ridiculousness of the official heliocentric model, because you probably haven't really thought about it. I didn't. I just parroted information in my classrooms to get the grade. Shockingly, very few people even know what the official heliocentric model is. Let's just cover a few of the numbers. If you believe in official heliocentrism, you believe that the wobbling and tilted Earth is rotating 1,037 miles per hour at the equator. The speed of sound is 767 miles per hour, so the ground you're standing on, at least on the equator, is allegedly moving at 1.4 times the speed of sound. Can you think of any evidence of the Earth's rotation? Wouldn't you think that this movement would be evident in the atmosphere, that airplanes, clouds, and weather balloons would be affected by the ground's movement at 1,037 miles per hour? The fact is that there's no evidence of the ground's rotation whatsoever. Foucault pendulums and the supposed Earth's Coriolis effect are nonsense. They are absurd lies. Second, if you believe in heliocentrism, you believe that the Earth is moving in its orbit around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. Even Einstein said you can't detect the Earth's movement by any optical experiment. So why do you believe in this nonsense other than you just take it on faith? But it doesn't end there. Next, the official model says that the sun is also moving at approximately 450,000 miles per hour, and all the planets are somehow being dragged by the sun's gravity as the sun rockets through space around the Milky Way galaxy. With all these inconceivable and undetectable movements, the North Star has remained fixed year after year and has been that way throughout recorded history.
Yep.
Next, you believe the entire Milky Way galaxy, including our sun and the North Star, is traveling at 1.34 million miles per hour towards the constellation Hydra. If you believe in heliocentrism, you believe the Earth is moving in a vortex through space like this at over 1 million miles per hour. Of course, this video isn't correctly scaled, but it's even more ridiculous when you think of it correctly scaled. But I want you to think about this. All of the so-called planets and their moons are all supposed to be on the same plane with the sun, but rocketing with the sun at unimaginable speeds, being pulled by gravity. How would gravity hold these planets on the same plane as the sun? How surprised would you be at firing a bowling ball, representing our sun, and then have tiny BBs at the 3,000 feet away orbiting around the zooming bowling ball sun and still maintaining the same speed with the bowling ball? It's nonsense, especially when you consider that those tiny BBs have other tiny BBs rotating around them, all maintaining the same plane with our bowling ball sun. Think about comets that zip away from the sun to then, 70 years later, like Halley's Comet, to catch back up with the sun on a tabular schedule. Are these comets attached by rubber bands? How did they catch back up? I don't care how many degrees you have. This is stupid. Look at this footage of star trails. Think of how impossible it would be to film these trails as the Earth is supposedly wobbling, tilted, rotating at 1,000 miles per hour, orbiting at 66,600 miles per hour, and chasing after a sun zooming at 450,000 miles per hour. As pointed out in the book King's Dethroned, modern astronomy is built upon shameful blunder after shameful blunder. It's fascinating how few honest, educated people have found these blunders. But that's the power of institutionalized conformity. Even the most educated become nothing but mere parrots of their institutions.
The oligarchs truly think of themselves as being above us and uniquely qualified to rule us. And it appears that far too many among the general public are willing to basically accept this state of affairs. People are willing to outsource their intellectual faculties to those deemed to be the authorities in this world.
Exhibit 1. Reservoir 6.3 mile sun reflection test. What you're seeing right now is my first curvature test back in April 2016. I have been researching flat Earth since October 2015, but this was the first time I tested it with my Nikon P900. I chose a distance of 6 miles because I wanted to test whether Robotham was telling the truth. He was. In this test, my wife was carrying a mirror at the opposite end of a reservoir, reflecting the sunlight from 6.3 miles away. I watched my wife place the mirror into the water. However, under the gold model, and that's taking the observation height into consideration, my wife should have been entirely obstructed by the curvature with a target hidden height over 12 feet. 12 feet should have been hidden by the alleged curvature, but there is simply no curvature over that reservoir. I also want to quickly address the globe refraction argument. This is a still from the video. Here it is cropped and zoomed in. Here is a picture of what it looks like on the opposite shore, and you can see the strange branch that projects horizontally. If 12 feet should have been hidden behind the curvature, then my footage from 6.3 miles should have looked something like this. But the globe liars out there will claim that this 12-foot section hopped the curvature.
I have talked about that and shared this a lot. I did want to circle back. I've shared this so many times, but I think it's important. And because of the sun, like you can barely even see me with this background. So this is a video that I made 3 months ago. Petroleum is not a fossil fuel. 2 likes, one of them being me, because I like all my videos. I'm biased though. And I only have 140 followers, guys. You know, and I appreciate all the people that follow me. You're definitely brave. And I hope that there's more. 47 views. There should be millions.
Yeah, is it mineral? Is it mineral like any other mineral? Is that how it? What would you say? How did it? What's the origin of? You see, when they first found petroleum, because they were beginning to make motors and needed on axles of wheels on railroad trains and all that sort of thing. And remember, trains started in the beginning of the 19th century. Then oil went from just a lubricant to a fuel, and it made it valuable. And Rockefeller happened to be the smartest man in the business at the time, but he made most of his money, or much of it, off the transport of petroleum as well as selling it. But one thing they realized was, because oil is putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. You know, there's no initial cost. It's in the ground, and in those days they were some of it almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. That boy, after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well. That kind of thing. A very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. Well, the definition of organic is a substance with hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And so it's usually a living substance, a tree. You analyze a dead tree, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, and grass, and so on, living things. Animals, we are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So at this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over who said, oil, petroleum, is hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Therefore, it must be derived from the spoiling, the rotting of formerly living matter. And playing the game properly, when this scientific convention was over, they defined oil as a residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. I don't know why they decided to use the word fossil, but it says formerly living matter, it's fossil. Well, of course, today...
They wanted to use fossil because that was just another link to like just repeat the same stuff, you know, and make all these connections with dinosaurs. All right. And I have debunked the theory of evolution too, ladies and gentlemen. So Charles Darwin, not as smart as you think he is. And there's a lot of bullshit. And so with calling them fossil fuels, it makes people think of dinosaurs.
And another thing we should know is that there has never been a fossil.
Not everyone, but generally speaking, when I ask what people, when I say fossil fuel, they say dinosaurs.
So a real fossil found below 16,000 feet. And you can't argue at 16,000 is a level line because someplace the ground sinks and so on. But 16 is what the scientists say, 16,000. We mine oil, or we drill for oil at 30,000.
So you're saying that like any form of life has been within 16,000 feet, and we're drilling at 30,000 feet and stuff.
33,000, 28,000 every day of the week. So right there, we rule it out that it isn't fossil fuel. It's called fossil fuel for the minds of the public to feel that it is an asset that is running out, being depleted. We talk about depletion allowance, which is a lot of, you know.
There's no more dinosaurs.
And actually,
how do we get the oil?
Know the world's oil supply, you know that it is not going to run out for an awfully long time. It is the second most prevalent liquid on Earth, and we haven't begun to dig. Well, with all that background, you see, the people in charge of the petroleum business, for perfectly reasonable business things, like any other man in the business, wants to keep his price as high as he can get away with. And the way to do is just say, well, there's no more. We the last barrel is going to cost $1,000, and then it's all done. And they preach that stuff. What bothers me is that in geology books, it's in there. The geologists say it's a fossil fuel. They've been bought. I went to a 4-year federal staff energy seminar run by
even now it's in all geology books. I've taken a look at actual books for Ontario and Quebec within Canada as well, and they're teaching it's all pseudoscience.
The government of the United States during the so-called energy crisis. I was the participant that represented the railroad industry. The airline industry was there. Every AA, administrative assistant of senators and congressmen, was there. The CIA was there. The Defense Department was there. The State Department was there. Sometimes sitting right in front of me in the row would be Henry Kissinger with his friend, the head of the Department of Defense. It's too bad I can't put the names with them. But anyway, people like that, top men in the government, sitting there listening to the federal staff energy seminar. Well, what this was doing is for 4 years, they were teaching a propaganda line to the leading people in this country.
And Kissinger, like he, a communist. Name the top 5 countries that have thrived under communism. Oh wait, name the top 5 countries where there's been the cause of the most atrocities committed against innocent civilians. Fucking communist countries with atheists as part of the pack in the leadership.
And therefore to the leading people in the world when you include the history.
So why would you involve them to be sitting in on security briefings and stuff like that and getting access to information that they have no business getting, and then getting this information and directly or indirectly giving it to people that are using it as part of a psychological operation and propaganda push in order to exploit us? Like, I just can't believe the ignorance of people. And this is why I've done courses with Five Eyes, with the Five Eyes community. And even I even with the head coordinator from like the Canadian LO, who I'm still friends with. He's an amazing, friggin' brilliant person. He's been so of service to Canada. And anyway, but I was even saying, like, sharing this specific information that they were asking me to share. I'm like, I wouldn't. I'm not sharing it. And then it became, well, I'm like for this, because they didn't want to move forward. It was like a backroom thing. Like, I won't say too much, but and with the highest levels of different government and other branches. And yeah, and there was information that I didn't want to give up because of the people that were in the room. And so even the agreement was, and again, this was like a little, like I had like literally this, like everything stopped, and I was literally in a room, and they were talking me through this because I was the course officer as well, because I was the highest ranking person on this course. And but I was saying, like, do you not see the issues with this? And I'm like, especially, and so like, but long story short, I did have to go back and play the game for that serial. But I made it very aware that this is not something that I would be doing in a real life application. And even to this day, like I've said this to certain people, and it annoys them and frustrates them, right? Because like they've been friends and or partners with these people for so many years, and there's such good training and content like that could be had. There's also by design, unfortunately, information that's getting leaked to other countries, and so there's foreign interference, and even in friggin' 2013, 14, like I was like saying this, so it's not new.
Schlesinger, Kissinger, and Schlesinger.
But I'm the type of person though that if I share, and I don't know why, because I'm coming from a fucking good place. I'm coming from a place, like I'm coming from such a good place. I've been of service my entire life, and so I don't understand why people think that I'm trying to like hurt feelings or any of that stuff. But I get so much resistance, like when I share this information, that people, it's like I'm a repellent to people. And even I ask people, like, if to even have coffee or do meetings or panels or even go on their podcasts, and people don't even want that either. And so and they don't look at my videos or my content, and so they just have their own interpretation or bias, and they in a bubble or a box that they're putting me in that I do not belong in, and they're not even putting in the time to take a look at like my like what I share and how I'm talking and conversating with people and coming from a good place.
Among others. And the object of it was, as Kissinger used in his own terms when it was time for him to speak, to create a world price for oil. In other words, not 30 cents a gallon here and 90 cents a gallon there, but let's get a world price. That's their goal. And they're trying to do that for wheat and everything else.
Done it.
We don't realize what the controls are, whether it's oil or some of these other things. Almost everything today is being categorized at the highest price they can possibly make it go. And so calling petroleum a fossil fuel is the basis for this system with respect to petroleum. And I know if the name Arthur Kantrowitz rings any bell. Arthur Kantrowitz is the head of the Kantrowitz Labs.
Research it, Arthur Kantrowitz.
Up by the AFCO company near Boston, Scientific Laboratories. And a great man in the scientific world. And Kantrowitz and I were sitting at a table at this seminar once, and the table happened to be all young college grad, PhD geologists. And so just to get a conversation started, I turned to Kantrowitz and I said, what do you think about this foolishness of these speakers talking about fossil fuel? And it was kind of put up. He started laughing. He said, that gets me. He says, I don't have a geology degree, but he had 1,000 other degrees. And he said, I don't understand. He said, you're thinking that these heads, these other fellows at the table, we did it on purpose. Start listening, And he said, are you gentlemen? He says, you're here at the meeting. Are you gentlemen by any chance geologists? And one fellow, yes, I am. And the other, he said, well, why don't you tell me? He said, why is oil? And he went on like that. We brought the house down because nobody could argue it.
So Arthur Kantrowitz, I want to make sure that you can see this. I don't know if you can see this. No. So it's Kantrowitz, and born October 20th, 1913, New York City, USA. Died November 29th, 2008. Alma mater, Columbia University. Physics and engineering for a scientific career. National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, Cornell University, Dartmouth College. So scientific contributions, like a lot of them. Area of fluid mechanics and gas dynamics. Magnetohydrodynamics. and to the development of high efficiency, high powered lasers. So he might not have been as good of a guy as we thought he was, because he's also part of groups where there's like knowingly lying to us about space and the reality of the earth and free energy that we can harness and stuff like that. Oh, why do people always upset me? If you, and the more you know about Tesla too, I think there's a lot of hidden archived historical accounts about him being a fucking vile human being and a parasite to his family in certain situations as well, including his nephew. But
like Einstein, people are going to, and he told them right there, he said, just drop it. But it's in all the books, in all the papers. But it started from that strange meeting in 1892, a scientific convention I have a big...
In Geneva, a scientific convention in 1892, in Geneva.
Thick scientific encyclopedia put out by the Divan Ostrand Company that's about 15 years old now. But it has the whole story of the conference. It doesn't have the Rockefeller part, but it has the whole story of how they straightened out organic chemicals and how it's all figured. And they've got petroleum right in there. Amazing. So
So very interesting stuff. I'll continue with the video that I just shared. Oh, no, it was already ending. Wrong one. Actually, no, I think on that note, I will leave it at that because I'm already over an hour in again. And so I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.